Vance, a respectable businessman and a respected person in the city, stood with Lacey, now his ex-wife, on the porch of the registry office and said goodbye forever. Today they are divorced. He looked at the woman for the last time. Damn pretty, well-groomed, pretty and not too harmful. You can live. But it just didn't live, for some reason. There was never love between them, for the life of me. Maybe if the children had gone, they would have dragged on this pseudo-family strap. And so, as if they were neighbors in a communal apartment, there was only one household. Over the years, communication between them was reduced to the phrases, "Are you hungry? What do you need to iron for tomorrow? How are you? Is everything fine?" The man deliberately laughed and said cheerfully, "Well, bye, or something, Lark. Happiness to you. Excuse me for saying this, but you can see for yourself, our family doesn't stick together. For some reason, how we don't push." The woman answered seriously, "Yes, you are right. We just torture each other. We didn't need to get married at all. It was all the parents then insisted. They say, endure, fall in love, and good luck to you. Maybe you will meet your true love again. Although you still won't forget your Marley all these years. You still love her. I'd always felt it. She seemed to stand invisibly between us. That's probably why we didn't get anything." Vance answered irritably, "Don't talk about Marley, I beg you. You know, this is a painful topic for me." "Okay, I ran. At work. Things are already up to my throat. Do not remember dashingly. Goodbye." So, easily and naturally, the spouses broke up forever, having lived together for no less than 10 years. In the evening, Vance decided to meet with his old friend, Isaac, to have a heart-to-heart talk in a cafe. "There was something nasty in my heart. It seems that you should rejoice. Now you are free. Do what you want. No one will look reproachfully and demand constant attention." And there was no mood at all. After drinking a glass and eating a fragrant, steaming barbecue, Isaac said, "I don't understand you, Vance, to be honest. Why did you suddenly decide to divorce Lacey? A good woman, after all, an excellent hostess. I often visited you, tried her pickles. Neither mind nor beauty got offended. And what did you miss? I don't understand. Do you think one would be better?" The man sighed and shrugged his shoulders. "I don't know. Maybe not better, but at least you don't need to create the appearance of a family that doesn't exist anymore. From the very beginning, Larka and I were strangers, you understand. In all these years, nothing has changed. When I remember my Miss Shania, my heart bleeds. That was true love." Everything inside sang. I wanted to hug her, kiss her, make her happy. With Laura, this is not even close. Intimacy and, then, as if a duty, no pleasure. Isaac was still surprised. "Well, you remembered, too. This is the first love. It is the brightest for many. I often swear with my Svetka. It happens, and I'm ready to strangle. But you're right, we have 2 teenage children. There's nowhere to go. For them we live like everyone else." Vance continued, "Exactly, like everyone else. And I don't want like everyone else. God did not give children. But there are no common interests. The routine is boring, not life. Now, if Marley had time to give birth to me, I would be the happiest. I would raise a son or daughter. Well, it's necessary. So many years have passed since that tragedy, and you still love Marley. That's how it happens. It's a pity girl died such a terrible death. She was very young. Let's remember the kingdom of heaven." They drank silently, without clinking glasses, sat for a while longer, and went home. Vance entered the apartment, which suddenly became somehow cold and empty without Lacey, sat down in an armchair, took an album with old photographs, and began to sort through them, remembering every episode of his life. Vance's parents were wealthy and intelligent people. Mom is the director of a shoe factory, father is a criminal lawyer. His services cost a lot of money and everything was scheduled for a year ahead. Therefore, the boy's childhood and youth were wonderful. He had all the best, imported things, tutors, high-quality expensive food, every summer vacation in the sea south. At the same time, Vance's father did not let him relax much, and just a little. He could teach the mind to reason. His mother also often took him to work with her, showed him what and how, and hoped that his son would also join her business when he grew up. Vance studied well, pleased his parents. At the end of school he followed in the footsteps of his mother and opened his own business, was engaged in the production and sale of branded leather shoes. He did not exchange for extras and consumer goods. He relied on quality. Therefore, over the years, his own clientele appeared in the face of wealthy citizens. He managed to stay afloat in the 90s, did not burn out, although it was very difficult. Many knew and respected him as a specialist in his field. with his first and only love, Marley. Vance met quite by accident when he stopped being on vacation for the night in one of the hotels. Marley worked there as a maid, and this is how it happened. Vance was about to leave, but decided to finally take a shower, as he had a long, tiring road ahead. When he got out of the shower in his swimming trunks, drying himself with a towel and singing his favorite tune under his breath, he found a maid who was actively buzzing with a vacuum cleaner and did not hear him at all. The guy coughed loudly. The poor girl, seeing him half naked, blushed all over like a boiled crawfish, jumped up on the spot, then began to back away and apologize. "Lord, my God, what a shame. Excuse me, please, there was a confusion. I was told to go clean this room. I thought you had already left. I knocked for a long time. No one opened it. I'll leave right away. Sorry, I'm just new. Apparently I mixed up something." Vance laughed. The situation was indeed comical, and cheerfully said, "Don't worry like that. Everything is in order. It happens. My name is Vance. How about you? I really didn't know that such fragile pretty girls can work as maids. It's hard work. You're on your feet all day." So they got talking and began to communicate. This young, thin as a stalk, modest girl captivated him immediately. Between them, as if a spark ran, the attraction was mutual. The way she looked at him, she seemed to lower her eyes, but her gaze directly burned through. Vance became friends with the girl and at first went to her town, and after a couple of months he moved Marley to his town. He marveled at her fortitude. Marley was an orphan, grew up in an orphanage, suffered such things there. Not every adult can stand it. The girl had neither parents, even if they were drunk, nor other relatives. She was simply thrown at the gates of the shelter as an unnecessary kitten. After graduation, she studied in absentia as a teacher and worked part-time in a hotel. You had to live on something, and at the same time she was positive, easy and smiling. The love between them flared up like a flame, almost instantly. Here, it would seem, there is nothing special about her. A small, puny, thin voice, they say about such a gray mouse, and the guy's heart burst out of his chest. When he touched her, everything inside was blazing with fire. He raked her in an armful and circled. Shin understood that Vance was not a poor guy. Nevertheless, she never asked for anything at all. For her, he was just a knight who, like in a fairy tale, appeared out of nowhere and saved the princess from imprisonment. Falling in love with her. At that time, Vance was still graduating from the University of Economics and gradually learned the basics of business. Inspired, he once brought his beloved to meet his parents. For some reason, he was sure that Marley would certainly like her mother because she is so wonderful. At first, the parents were friendly and nice, but they asked too many, simple questions, but with a catch. Especially the father was a master in this matter. Slowly sipping vintage wine, he asked Marley, "Where do you like to relax most of all? Closer in the Crimea, or do you still prefer exotic abroad? Where do you work? Or are you graduating? In which university?" If not a secret, Marley behaved modestly in a simple way. She tried to keep quiet more. She answered quietly and in monosyllables, afraid to blurt out too much. She knew that she had nothing to brag about. However, when she nevertheless said that she was an orphan and grew up in an orphanage, Vance's mother instantly changed her face. The rest of the party was crumpled. Marley felt that she was no longer welcome in this house, although the social conversation continued and the father feigned a smile. When Vance went to see the bride off, she suddenly burst into tears right in the entrance, sobbing like a child. The guy was taken aback, hugged her. "Well, what are you doing, dear? Come to me. Are you very worried?" Marley sobbed. "They didn't like me, I know. Now are you leaving me? It's over between us, right?" Vance smiled, stroked her hair. "Well, why are you winding yourself up like that? Whatever my parents say, know that I love you and will not give up on you. I swear. How will I be without my kitten?" Marley wiped away her tears, smiled and calmed down a bit. She loved Vance so much that she simply could not imagine life without him. After the bride left, a scandal erupted in the house. Mother shouted, "Son, are you crazy? Why did you mess with this beggar woman? She has neither a estate nor a yard. Did we dream of such a daughter-in-law? Well, what is your future with her? Get out. Your friend from a parallel course, Lacey. It's a completely different matter. Stately, beautiful, blood with milk, daughter of a businessman, educated, knows 3 languages. Well, what did you find in this skinny gray mouse?" Vance was also furious. What if she's an orphan? then not a person? Or can we not love each other because of this? How can you be so cruel, mother? Do you even know how hard it is for her? After all, she is alone in this world, and Lacey is just a friend. I don't love her at all. I don't like her as a girl at all. Then the father, being a lawyer, wedged into the conversation. He reasoned pragmatically. Well, let's say you have love, and what? Will she live here with us? No, dear, it won't work like that. Since you are such an adult and our opinion is not a decree for you, then provide for yourself. Settle your orphan wherever you want, just not with my money, okay? Advice to you and love, Doves. Vance bubbling with rage. Well, great, I'll go collect my things. I won't be lost without you. Best wishes. Thanks to this house, now I will go to another. I thought you would support me and accept Marley, but you. The guy rented a small, old, but rather cozy house on the outskirts of the city for an inexpensive price, and moved Marley there. They began to live together, separately. The guy already had an entrepreneurial streak. He began to sell clothes, shoes. He was spinning around, trying to provide for his beloved. These were the best memories of his life. How good they were together. Marley, despite her young age and lack of experience, turned out to be just a smart girl, learned to cook, lead a life, continued her studies. Vance, as a responsible man, forbade her to work as a maid, because now he is the head of the family, and it is up to him to decide. The beloved did not contradict him. She obeyed him in everything, and simply idolized him. And what hot nights they had. They could love each other until dawn. Tenderness and passion literally overwhelmed both. The guy saved up some money and gave Marley a handmade silver bracelet with hearts for her birthday. Unfortunately, there was not enough money for gold. The girl was in seventh heaven with happiness and gently whispered to him, "Ladusha, you are my best. I love you so much. No one has ever given me anything like this. It's like I'm in a fairy tale with you." The couple planned to soon modestly sign. We decided, despite disagreements, to invite parents. Vance's mother, having heard such news, flatly refused to go. The father just frowned and remained silent. The woman shushed at her husband. "Well, let him go on his own head. Go live how you want. Now what? Rejoice in the orphan, and there you will not have time to look back. She will become pregnant. Then it will be too late to do anything. Well, you are a respected lawyer. You have such connections. Come up with something." A terrible grief burst into Vance's life unexpectedly, and turned his whole life upside down. On that fateful evening, he, as usual, worked part-time after school, and delivered goods to points. For some reason, I could not get through to Marley, although this had never happened before. She always answered the phone right away. Some kind of anxiety tormented him all evening. He was worried. What is it? Marley is always at home in the evenings. She doesn't go anywhere without me, and the phone is always with her. Has something happened? When he finally freed himself and rushed home at full speed, even at the entrance he noticed 2 fire engines, police, an ambulance. Black, acrid smoke was pouring around. The house was already burning down. The guy panicked and began to break through the cordon, and the crowd of onlookers who had gathered from all neighboring streets. He shouted, "Marley, there is my bride. Did you save her? What's happened? Where is she? I run to you." "Hold on," they told him. "You can't go there. The house burned down. No one survived. Apparently, the wiring was old, so it closed. We checked everything. There is no one there, neither alive nor dead. We offer you our condolences." When the fire was extinguished, Vance ran into the yard. Everything was black, mixed with ash, foam and water. Marley's charred slippers, and the remains of her warm jacket, which she always wore at home, were lying in the hallway. The guy, as if in a fog, wandered through the charred wooden debris, and shouted, "Marley, where are you? Dear, respond. I don't believe you are dead. Don't leave me, do you hear? I'll perish without you." He cried, screamed, howled and rolled on dirty, charred boards, completely mad with grief. By that time, Vance's father drove up, and, observing this terrible picture, anxiously asked the policeman, "Lord, is he out of his mind? Why is he behaving like this? How to bring him to his senses?" He just sighed and replied, "He's in shock. The brain denies the obvious. You know, this is a normal defensive reaction. He will pass with time. Take him away. Don't pressure him. Try to talk less on this topic. Distract him. Time cures. Our condolences." The father quietly approached the guy. "Son, can you hear me? It's me, your father. Let's go home." You won't get her back. Seeing his father, Vance went completely berserk, and with a distraught look went at him with his fists. It's all your fault with your mother. Are you happy? Are you? You set it all up. You hated her. Satisfied now. No more Marley. Was in his knot. And the boy laughed hysterically. He crossed himself and answered, "What are you talking about, son? You are clearly out of your mind. We, of course, were not delighted with your bride. But there was no wish for the death of this poor girl. Come to your senses. I understand that you loved her. You are in pain now. But my mom and I have nothing to do with it. Why are you throwing such terrible accusations? The firefighters have already told me that this is an accident. The antediluvian wiring closed it, so come on, there's nothing else to do here. Don't spoil spirit. The body was never found, so Marley has not yet been recognized as dead." Vance immediately turned to the police and wrote a statement about her disappearance. In the department, he filled out a couple of pieces of paper and attached photographs of his beloved to them. The police officer on duty entered all the data into a common database, and that was it. Time passed inexorably. Vance was constantly interested in how the search was going. But the investigator tiredly answered, "We are looking for. Don't worry, we'll find it. Later, the guy will be given a piece of paper about the missing Marley, and a few years later she will be recognized as dead." Vance internally accepted her death. His Marley could neither run away nor leave like that. Only death could separate them forever. Vance completely withdrew into himself, fenced himself off from everyone, practically did not communicate with his parents at all. After studying, he closed himself in his room, turned on their favorite slow song with Marley, put on headphones, and quietly cried, remembering how good it was then. He covered all the walls with her photographs. It was at this critical moment, when Vance did not want to live at all, that Lacey strongly supported him. She often visited him. The guys locked themselves in the room, talked for a long time. The guy had to at least tell someone how much he loved Marley. Lacey listened to him faithfully, never interrupted and sympathized. I tried to distract somehow. Either she asked for help with classes, then to fix a broken computer, then suddenly she had an extra ticket to the cinema, and there was no one to go with. Vance's parents were only happy and supported Lacey in every possible way, welcomed her, as they were afraid that their son would go completely crazy with grief. So, imperceptibly, they became close after a while. It happened at her birthday party, when all the guests had already left. There were no declarations of love, just Lacey, having drunk champagne for courage, climbed up to kiss him herself, and Vance, also under a degree, silently threw her on the bed. Although Vance had no feelings for Lacey, he didn't even hide it. Did Lacey love him? Who knows? Probably. Everyone around her convinced her of this. Her parents pressed, they say, "Don't delay. A good party, a great family, a worthy groom." Her friends also urged, "Well, Larochka, the main thing is not to get lost. Take the bull by the horns. Otherwise, your Vance will be quickly taken away." The guy is a prominent, promising, with a head. Both before the wedding and after, Vance and Lacey, in fact, remained just friends. There was no such warmth and passion between them. It's scary to remember, but even in bed Vance imagined his Marley in Lacey's place, and only in this way could he get relaxation and pleasure. Lacey really wanted a child. She was worried. She ran to the doctors, and Vance, hand on heart, even rejoiced in the depths of his soul that he was gone. Now, if Marley gave birth to him, he would jump for happiness. Otherwise, many envied them. Well, the house is a full bowl. Everything is in abundance. They live peacefully. There are never scandals. They were unaware that that's why they don't exist. That everyone has had their own life for a long time, and they have nothing to share, and there's not even anything to talk about. Therefore, a divorce was inevitable, although many couples live this way all their lives, just out of habit. After the divorce, 8 years flew by like one day. During this time, many women were spinning around Vance, who were not at all averse to having fun with such a pleasant man, and even with the director of the company. But, as a rule, he did not let anyone close. He was incredibly bored with them. They all seemed to be a carbon copy. They even behaved the same way, just beautiful dolls, with long, artificial cilia, nothing more. That morning Vance woke up with a deafening headache. My mouth was dry. I was terribly thirsty. He, barely thinking, began to recall that yesterday the birthday of the deputy was so stormy. They walked in the restaurant until late at night. The whole body ached and did not obey. Vance with difficulty got out of bed, and wandered to the refrigerator. There was a bachelor's set, a few eggs, half a pizza, and foamy drinks, just in case. Here he has arrived. The man opened the misted bottle and greedily took a long gulp. Oh, now would be some hot chicken soup, he thought dreamily. The man took a cool shower and started looking for a clean shirt. Then he mumbled for a long time and stroked her. Everywhere in the apartment one could see here and there signs of the absence of a woman's hand in the house. Dust on the shelves, a basket full of dirty laundry, no borscht, no fragrant cutlets. The once fragrant orchids on the windowsills have dried up long ago, as he always forgot to water them and feed them on time. Maybe I divorced Larka in vain. With her, the house looked completely different. Not a speck of dust, not a mote, and always a hearty lunch. And what didn't I live? Isaac was right. Alone is not honey either. Vance suddenly thought. He again took out the old album, worn to holes, and began to admire how he and Marley, so young and happy, smile and wave their hands. God, when will this obsession end? Oh, Marley, Marley, well, why do I compare all the women in the world? With you, I will never marry again. No peace of mind with anyone. We must do something about it, and it's just like a beer yuck has become. Vance scolded himself. Toward evening, a severe thunderstorm broke out, and, out of boredom, he decided, as always, to go to his social network page. With his external data in the photographs, there was never a release from women. The young ladies constantly hinted at a meeting, and strove to get to know each other better. Vance did not take this case seriously, so, rather, out of curiosity, and for fun, correspondence with women this time dragged on for the whole evening. He sensed those greedy for money from a mile away, and brushed aside immediately. Others, after a little communication, turned out to be narrow-minded and illiterate persons, also ceased to interest him. Others already had several children. Vance was not ready to take such a step yet. Only one woman caught him. She had cream roses in the photo. Vance sighed sadly. Cars, beloved. The man scrolled through the story. It's interesting, but a stranger comes to my page almost every day and doesn't write anything. Vance was intrigued and immediately wrote her a message. Good evening, maybe we time to meet. The answer came instantly from the first lines. Communication with this mysterious stranger immediately went well. Everything went easily and smoothly all week. Vance asked her to send a photo and insisted on a personal meeting, but the woman only answered evasively. Does the photo change something, or is only appearance important to you? Then it's better to immediately interrupt our communication. For me, for example, it's not so important. What a man looks like is much more valuable than what he does, what he feels. In my opinion, people are drawn to each other if their inner world matches, isn't it? I'm not a model, but I'm not ugly, an ordinary woman. We will definitely meet, but a little later. Where should we hurry? Let's get to know each other better first. By the end of the week, the man was already desperate and decided that the stranger was just fooling him. Otherwise, what is the reason for the refusal? It is not clear. Finally, on Sunday, she unexpectedly wrote, I am waiting for you today at 7 in the evening in the Victoria Cafe on Kazanskaya. Vance already jumped for joy. Hooray, I wonder what she is. Will she like me? And suddenly something really happens. It seems that we think alike. Our views coincide. So what suit to wear? I need to choose a tie and drop in for a bouquet at a flower shop. My God, completely crazy in old age. 45 already, and I, like a boy, run blindly to a meeting. It would be funny if there was some immense aunt 10 years older than me. Exactly at 7, Vance, as expected, without delay, entered the cafe. In his hands he held a huge bouquet of delicate cream roses. The visitors literally turned their heads after him. He was a very prominent man. He twisted his head, trying to guess if the same stranger was among the women, and almost ran into the cleaning lady. He apologized, and was about to leave, when suddenly the same handmade silver bracelet flashed on her hand. There could be no mistake. There was simply nothing else like it in nature. He shouted, "Excuse me, can I have you for a minute?" Then the woman turned to face him, and he was stunned. It was his Marley. Incredible. The same cornflower blue sad eyes and dimples on the cheeks. He rushed to her, scooped up an armful, and pressed to him, "Marley, darling, are you alive? But how? This is just unreal. Dear, how happy I am to have found you." She burst into tears and answered, "It's not you, Humi, but I found you on a dating site. You are an elderly womanizer. You came to meet me." All those present were in shock and watched this interesting meeting with their mouths open. just like in the series. Noticing this, Vance said, "Let's get out of here, it's too noisy here, and we need to talk about everything." Marley nodded her head negatively. "I can't. There are still 2 hours left until the end of the shift. Who will let me go?" Vance laughed. "Consider that you don't work here anymore. Leave and let's go. I'll take care of everything." Vance brought his beloved home. They sat opposite each other on the sofa and started talking. Vance was perplexed. "Tell everything." "How so?" "That evening, the house burned down completely," they said. "The wiring was shorted. I saw with my own eyes your burned slippers and jacket. They said no one survived the fire. I myself examined every millimeter there. Lord, I even buried you mentally and officially recognized as dead." With shaking hands, the man took out the very paper about death from the box and handed it to the woman. Marley sighed, was silent for a long time, and began her sad story. "You see, right on the eve of our wedding, when you were at school, your father came to me. By his tone and appearance, I immediately realized that nothing good should be expected from the conversation. But what I heard horrified me. He made me agree to this. Your father said that you have a fiancée, Lacey. She is the daughter of businessmen, and I am an orphan, and nothing shines for me, and that they and your mother will lay down the bones, but will not let us get married. He promised to give a lot of money and help with new documents if I went far away. At first I rested. I did not agree to any. I tried to explain that I love you very much, and I will never refuse. It all seemed to me just savagery. Then he hissed, "Look, you will regret it later. For example, do you want to go to jail? I can arrange by pull. I have enough connections. Believe me, tomorrow the district police officer will come to you with a search and find a bag of powder in your pocket. You will thunder for 8 years, and when you go out, then for sure no one will covet you. Convict. You have no choice. Agree well." I count to 3. I really was very scared, because your father, with his connections in legal circles, could do nothing to rot me in prison, and did as he wanted. The house then burned down. I don't know how he set everything up. Now I am Yana Grissasivna Kosolopova, and not Kalinina Maria Nikolaevna. She handed him a passport. I live like that. For many years I rented an apartment in Ozersk. It's 700 kilometers from here. I raised my son to his feet, 20 years old already, and recently such anguish took just nostalgia. So I decided to return here, to my homeland. I found out about you, that you divorced Lacey a long time ago, so I decided to find you through a social network. Vance could not believe his ears. "Lord, my poor girl, please forgive me. I didn't know anything. So grieved and longed for you." "If you don't believe," Dylan Sanders asked, "do you remember my bosom friend? He helped me emerge from that pool. I thought I would go completely crazy. Then my parents insisted on our wedding with Lacey. As a result, we lived with her for 10 years, without becoming happy. But we didn't love each other at all, so we decided to get divorced. And my father, God be his judge, he died a long time ago, and my mother too, so there is no one to ask now. I want us to be together again. After all, I could not forget you and stop loving you." The woman laughed. "Couldn't forget? Yeah, how about it? And who was running to meet a stranger now? You didn't know it was me. But you say you didn't forget. To be honest, I didn't have anyone after you. I gave all my love to my son, Shane. And it wasn't before. Everything was spinning to make ends meet, and my son didn't need anything." Vance made excuses. "Stop. Do you have a son? He's mine, right? When did you give birth to him? Why didn't she say anything about pregnancy? This is cruel of you." Marley even cried. "Don't yell at me. I found out about the pregnancy myself when I moved. You know how hard it was to raise one son to his feet, and how bitter it is to explain to him that his father will never come to him. So don't judge me, Sanka. I have a great boyfriend." Vance changed his tone. "Excuse me, I just dreamed of children for so many years, but it turns out I could raise my son. That's why I lost my temper. Can I see him, please?" Marley answered. "I don't mind. You are his father, but how he will take it all, I do not know. Honestly, the guy is already quite an adult. This is where you build relationships." Unable to endure it any longer, Vance instinctively stretched his lips to Marley and began to cover her neck and face with passionate kisses. The woman was all trembling and exhausted. It was felt that they both missed each other very much. Through the light curtains, the shameless moon shone softly into the room. Peeping at the lovers, Marley was dozing, exhausted after passionate love, her cheek pressed against her muscular native shoulder, and Vance could not close his eyes. He quietly stroked her hair, inhaled their extraordinary aroma. He wanted to scream with happinance to the whole wide world. He whispered all the time, "Darling, now I won't give you to anyone." In the morning he jumped as if scalded, when he did not find Marley next to him. He was shaking like a fever. What's happened? Why did she leave? Maybe I offended her. Maybe it was just a dream and I'm going crazy. Finally, he found a note on the nightstand. There were only a few words. She left for work. Come to dinner at 8 tonight. St. Mira, House 7. Love you, Marley. He began to kiss this piece of paper and almost cried with happiness. Vance left work early for the first time. He bought a huge pizza, cake, champagne, a bouquet for Marley, and decided to meet her from work. The employees of the cafe were simply stunned when such a respectable man approached the cleaning lady in a chic foreign car and with a bouquet of flowers. Vance asked where the director's office was and went inside. 15 minutes later, he took Marley by the arm, kissed her on the cheek, and they went to the exit. Everyone began to vociferously discuss what was happening. Well, Marley gives, and also quiet, poor, unfortunate, disabled son, and she herself picked up what a boyfriend, and how did she succeed? After all, there is nothing like it. Ordinary babe. Inside the car, Vance gave her the documents. I talked to the director. You don't work here from tomorrow. I can't let my beloved woman carry a rag and ruin my health. Marley was indignant. How? For what? What will I live on? I just found this job. I really need the money right now. But here they were allowed to take extra shifts. The man smiled. Well, you seem to be a teacher by education. So you go to school, teach children. Isn't this what you've been dreaming of all your life? And if you want, just sit at home. I have enough money to provide for us. Marley sighed. Thank you, of course, but you don't know everything. My son had a terrible accident 6 months ago. His drunk driver knocked him down right at the pedestrian crossing. Now here's a wheelchair user, but there was a promising football player. He was repeatedly awarded mid-urgent surgery. If you run it, it will never get back on its feet. Where can I get that kind of money? At least go sell a kidney. And so my heart bleeds when I look at my son. I try to cheer him up. I save a little. And at night I howl into my pillow. Let's go for dinner and see for yourself. Vance entered the house, shook hands with the guy. I thought to myself, Lord, this is the spitting image of me, only in my youth. How similar. He was surprised. Mom, do we have guests? You didn't say anything. Is this from your job? Marley blushed and stumbled. And Vance took in more air into his lungs and said, as he was, No, Sawyer, I'm not from work. I am your own father. My name is Vance. I only found out about you yesterday. This is not my fault. Believe me, would you like to chat with you if you don't mind? The guy changed his face, clenched his teeth and turned to his mother. And you, mother, did you know who my father was, that he was alive and well, and was silent? Why, I asked you about this 100 times as a child. Is it fair? And you, Daddy, for 20 years you have never come to visit your own son. And now what? Mad love has awakened. Yes, though all of you. And he sharply turned the carriage around and rolled to his room, slamming the door. Yes, Vance didn't count on such a reception, but said out loud, no one promised that it would be easy. The guy is an adult, and here is Dad. He didn't get dusty. He needs time to accept this fact. I'll try to talk to him calmly again. Don't cry. I will find a way to him, I promise. He softly knocked on the door and asked, Sawyer, can I come in? There is a conversation. If not, I'll understand and leave. He muttered unhappily, well, come in. Now, I suppose, he will start telling that you're a Polar Explorer pilot, or Agent 007, and you couldn't make yourself felt in 20 years. We know these stories, only I'm not 5 years old anymore. The noodles don't stick to my ears. The guy quipped. Vance sighed. Sawyer, answer me one question. Do you have a girlfriend? He was surprised. Yes, there is. Natalia's name is. But what? The father continued. Then you will understand me. Do you love her? Yes, strong. And she didn't refuse me, even though she was in a wheelchair. Together with her, we are trying to raise money for my operation. Vance continued. So, Sawyer, your mother and I fell in love when we were also 20 years old, just like you are now. My parents were against it, because she was an orphan, but I went against them, and your mother and I began to live together. Now imagine, I come home and find out that everything burned down there, and your mother died, and I didn't know anything about you at all. That is, that Marley was pregnant. And just yesterday, your mother admitted that it was my father who intimidated her and forced her to fake his death. And she herself found out about the pregnancy later. What would you do if you were me? Your mother and I are both victims of my parents' machinations. All fate has been distorted for us. And don't be offended by your mother. What could she tell you? Even if she was forced to change her documents. But now I have found you. So what's stopping us from talking? Just like that, humanly, I perfectly understand that you grew up a long time ago. You are already a man, and I am not going to teach you life or educate you, but I want to become a part of your life, to help somewhere, to suggest something. Is it bad? Well, how is the world? Sanka timidly extended his hand. Sorry, I didn't know that everything was like that. It's just that my mother never told me anything. She only talked that we weren't allowed to see each other, and that's it. This is where I got angry. I thought, well, how can it be? For so many years the father did not want to see his own son. Vance said, let's go eat pizza and drink tea with cake. There, my mother, probably, was already exhausted, thinking that we were arguing here, when the frightened Marley saw how the father and son peacefully went out, laughing and chatting about something. A stone fell from her soul. Thank God. So we got along. Vance kept his word and helped to find money for his son's operation. I took a huge loan, borrowed from friends and colleagues. He assigned Sawyer to the best clinic to the famous neurosurgeon professor. Fortunately, we made it on time. And a year later the guy was running and playing football as before. She and Sawyer became best friends. The son introduced his father to the bride, Natalia. He liked the girl very much. A cheerful, perky, optimistic laughter. She strongly motivated and supported her son during the rehabilitation period. She knew how to make him do exercises through pain. She fiddled around like with a child. Through his acquaintances, Vance got Marley into a school nearby as an elementary school teacher, not because of money, but for the soul. He saw how much pleasure she gets from her work. He remembered how she dreamed of becoming a teacher. She checked children's notebooks with such rapture and told him every evening about her tomboys, and he only smiled and was happy for her. Vance sold his apartment and bought a large house so that all members of his large family would have enough space in it. What a happiness it is when you come home and there your beloved wife, son, future daughter-in-law are waiting for you. Everyone is talking. They are talking about something. This is a real friendly family. In addition, Natalia brought from somewhere a funny little puppy, who was immediately nicknamed Cooper. He was painfully round. So, now there are even more family members. And it doesn't matter that so many years were wasted because of the intrigues of the parents. The main thing is that at last they are all together. Now Vance, proudly sitting at the dinner table as the head of the family, slyly looked at his son and Natalia and hurried. So, young people, don't delay the wedding. And then passion is like hunting for grandchildren to babysit. They just blushed and laughed. Lacey, Vance's ex-wife, also everything turned out perfectly. Soon after the divorce, she met a good man, Anderson. He worked as a manager in their company, and it turns out that he had been secretly in love with her for a long time. The couple signed, and Lacey managed to get pregnant. Despite all the fears of doctors, a charming baby was born. Many times Lacey remembered Vance and mentally thanked him that it was he who then decided to divorce. She herself would not have decided to take such a step first, otherwise none of them would be happy.